Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mind, Body, and Roots. I've got here my mentor, a good friend, and just an overall awesome human being, Dr. Paul Nacho Goodman. I will let him introduce himself because he's got such an interesting journey and just an overall very diverse individual. So, Paul, go right ahead.
Thrilled to be talking to you, Hod. You're awesome. It's really amazing that you do this to share knowledge, inspire, motivate, be authentic with your listeners. I love being on podcasts. So it all started with my failed dreams of playing professional basketball. I had amazing parents. Sadly they're not alive right now, but that could be part of my story. They were awesome parents. But I don't know if they said this directly, but sometimes your kids think you could do whatever you want if you put your mind to it. You work hard, but you cannot play professional basketball when you have this body type and this speed. So I had to go and get backup dreams. So I finished dental school in 2002. I did a multiple year general practice residency at Albert Einstein, which I will put as one of the best decisions I've made in my career. I've made some not so great decisions, like working with a dual rep broker and costing myself $100,000 plus. But I will put doing a multiple year general practice residency, learning to place implants in the olden days. Now it's like super cool for general dentists to be placing implants along with doing class 2 composites. But back in the olden days of 1999, 2002, it was a big deal for general dentists to place implants. I was lucky to have a program director, Dr. William Stewart, who supported general dentist learning. And my GPR represented to me the best of dentistry. We had multiple specialists helping us learn, getting better, pushing us out of our comfort zones in a responsible way. So as you know, I'm a big fan of the GPR and AGD. I own 2 practices with my brother right now in Pennington and Ewing, New Jersey. You have been to our Pennington location. I think what's important is that I am a practice owner, but I'm currently not practicing clinically. Those 2 things are important to understand. When you are a practice owner, you still have to think about your practice, worry about your practice, make decisions about your practice. But I'm not currently clinically practicing inside the operatory. We have associate dentists, we have specialists because I have 2 companies that I started in my head, one Dental Nachos, the other Dentist Job Connect, helping people find jobs. To help your listeners understand the nature of businesses, Ahad, I would describe a dental practice like a 20-year-old kid, right? They're not going to get into too much trouble. They know how to get through their day. They are going to frustrate you, but the things that go sideways with the 20-year-old kid are kind of like in a little box, right? A little box. And Dentist Job Connect is kind of like a 4-year-old child. And Dental Nachos is like an 8-year-old child. And their box of problems is way bigger, right? So those 2 business children need me more. So I love doing that. Dental Nachos is a community to help dentists learn, laugh, and feel less alone. The business model there is sponsors pay for the group to exist, bring people all kinds of things they wouldn't know about otherwise. And also, they bring dentists their favorite thing, Ahad. Do you want to guess what that is?
Free.
The free and lower prices. Okay. So dentists, a little inconsistent, Ahad, because they always want a deal, a discount. But do they want to discount their crowns? They do not, right? They want their cotton rolls to be free, but someone goes, "Oh, I'd like a discount on my work." So, dentist, I can appeal to their, how should I say it best? Their cheap side. All of us are a little cheap as dentists. Sponsors bring us deals, and Dentist Job Connect is the proverbial one-trick pony, pretty much, where we help associates like you find jobs and learn about what to look for in the real world, and practice owners like the one you work for meet you guys. I live in Center City, Philadelphia, my favorite place on earth. We have a golden doodle, Tilly from Philly. Mrs. Nacho, my wife, helps me with the businesses. I am like the biggest fan of Philadelphia. I'm wearing my Eagles sweatshirt here. So when people ask me about my perfect day, I sometimes say, "Oh, like the day your kids are born," right? But the day your kids are born is an amazing day, but it's filled with anxiety, filled with worry. The birth story of my second child was just wild. I tell it on stage. It wound up going okay, but a lot of things went sideways. So February 6th, 2025 is one of my perfect days because that is when the Eagles defeated the Chiefs by such a large margin. They put their backup players in the game of the Super Bowl. I could enjoy that game because it was 40-6. Now, while there was some anxiety before the game, I would describe that as my perfect days was February 6th, 2025. So thanks for allowing me to share that.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. I mean, it's always a pleasure just talking and catching up with you. I mean, you always have a lot of stories, and it's always funny to hear some of the stories because I'm like, someone said that or they did that,
Yeah.
and you're like, yeah, I'm telling you the truth. So, I mean, that part is always awesome, and then your journey has just been so inspirational. And one thing that I feel that the dental community and maybe even the business community doesn't give you enough credit for is bridging connections between sad dentists Well, sad, lonely dentists, because private practice and practicing on your own is a pretty commonplace thing. And it's very, very isolating. And I think you've done a
Yeah,
good job by creating a Facebook group slash space where people can connect, generally get to know one another, build friendships, and find associates and even become owners themselves at some point or partnerships or whatever. And I think you addressed a space maybe about 8 years ago. And it's just changed the dental landscape for the better. So, kudos to you, man, to
I
do that.
appreciate that. I always say I was just lecturing for D. Fisher. I say friends in your phone, FIPS.
Yeah.
So you're my friend in my phone via text message, but Dental Nachos, the Facebook group, can be a friend in your phone, and my Instagram account can be a friend in your phone. And we should all feel so lucky. I put a post on my group saying over the past 10 years, what's been one of the best things that's happened to dentistry. And an older dentist said, these younger dentists have no idea how lucky they are to have all this online learning at their fingertips, right?
Yeah.
That's true, right? I mean, you're going to one day be my age, and the younger generation's going to have something cool that you didn't have. But if you would just like to pull back for a second, I can take my thumb and give out Dr. Artie Volker's free C course on Class 2 composites, an amazing dentist who will literally sit there for 60 minutes, and you can click on it and watch it for free and go back to your operatory and do a better job. We should just be really glad that that exists. And I not only do I provide this learning, I also get to learn myself from people. So I
Hmm.
compliment you on acknowledging that that has been a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Paul, in your entire journey, like, you told us the entire thing. Is there anything that you would have done differently or changed?
For sure. So I was lecturing yesterday, and I was saying when people say they don't regret anything in life, you should just call those people liars, right? Because we regret things, but sometimes regret has like all this emotion attached to it. Like it's this. I made this terrible decision. So maybe what do I wish I did sooner? What did I wish I adjusted? Kind of changes. So the number one thing that I wish I did for my career was pay attention to PPO adjustments earlier in my career as both an associate and a private practice owner. I worked with my amazing dad, but my dad graduated from dental school in 1969. He had one job before becoming a dentist. He sold shoes for a company called Tom McCann's, popular in New Jersey. Now, I'm sure his shoe selling helped him with customers, but they didn't have any business courses. He did the Air Force for 2 years, and he went to Pennington, New Jersey, and worked as a dentist. And he joined a practice and had a partner, and that's where he grew up. And it worked out well for him. And he was a pillar of the community and was always said that dentistry was his profession, not his hobby. So he had a good attitude towards it. He wasn't not home at night because he was waxing up teeth in the lab and things like that. But he never really understood how bad PPO adjustments would be. And to his credit, Ahad, and his partner's credit, they used to not be so bad. So
Hmm.
they used to be like 10% of your fee, 20%. But when I joined the practice, I was looking at these insurances saying, this is like 50% of our fee, Dad. Like, how can we do this crown for 50% off?
Yeah.
And he would explain it away with emotions. Oh, those are the teachers that they teach you in school. We should support them. So a lot of dentists are not emotionally secure enough, me included, to look at those adjustments and be like, I can't run my business this way. Because I will share with you, could you imagine talking to a dentist that was so insecure, Ahad, didn't believe in himself enough that when an insurance company sent him a letter saying, hey, we just want to let you know that next year we're going to reduce your fees. And this insurance company paid this practice $500,000 a year, as an example, roughly that. And the reduction was going to immediately be $100,000 of less revenue. What kind of insecure, emotionally unstable dentist would say, sure, let's see how it goes? That was me. One of my biggest regrets because I was fearful and worried and not sure what happened to my team. I said, oh, okay, I'll do it. And it took us 6 years to go out of network without insurance. And I'm just sharing a story, Ahad, not a stat. I think that had a cost to me and my businesses of well over $500,000 of lost revenue,
Yeah.
right? And that is one of the things I regret, not paying attention to numbers sooner. Mark Costas, my good friend and sponsor, there was no DSIs back in 2004. So that is one of the things. And also not understanding how to work with advisors. I worked with the dual representation broker to buy practices. I did not know the right questions to ask. It was 100% my responsibility, but I wish I went back, could go back and have that knowledge. So those are two things I wish I did differently.
Fair. Those are honest, answers. And the thing is, I just wish, I mean, nowadays I think there's more awareness, But I still think that well, not even associates. I think dental students, they lack that business acumen, and that's a big issue. I mean, Dental Nachos is out there to teach you if you want to learn. I mean, Dr. Labe and I, we partook in Nacho Supreme, which is a fantastic platform for us to learn. I watched it all, he watched it all, and I think coming out of dental school, we felt more well rounded, and we still did a residency and felt like it was the best thing for us. I mean, it put us where we are today. But I feel that that business side is still lacking in schools, and people in schools make the excuse, "Oh, well, you don't really need it," but yet they want us to learn about the Krebs cycle, like you say,
Yeah.
and how that's applicable. And I'm like, well, that's not really applicable either. I get why it's important, but that's why we went to college, right? That's why we took the DAT. That baseline science should already be there technically. We want
Also,
to learn, hey,
that baseline science, Arad, I mean, Ahad, I was thinking of Ross for a second, Ahad, is it's irrelevant in the operatory on your day-to-day work, right? So there's merit for it for jumping over hurdles to get to be a dentist. But not once did someone say, I hate my denture. And I said, let me tell you about the Krebs cycle, right? Or not once did someone say, I don't want to pay for this crown. I say, let me tell you how the kidney works, right? So I think at some point, I see it with my daughters in grade school and high school and college. We have got to remove irrelevant learning and focus on relevant learning so people are more successful. I have a very successful friend, my best friend. He's a hedge fund guy, very humble. He makes so much money a hot. I'm embarrassed to ask him how much he makes because I think he's embarrassed to tell me, right? When we were younger and we were friends, I'd be like, oh, he got a $60,000 bonus from his hedge fund and maybe he made $300,000 a year. This is back in like 2002, right? I am embarrassed. We are such close friends that he would not be, I could ask him how much money he makes, right? But he makes so much, I think he's embarrassed to tell me because I'm just like, oh, hey, do you make like $3 million a year? He's like, actually, I make 8 million, right? Like that's like way more millions. But I'm telling this story because he says all the time that we should learn about fundamental money skills in high
hmm
school instead of international relations. Like not once has the relationship between Russia and the US in the 80s helped me in life, right? It's a nice story, but I really would have liked to learn how interest worked, right? How to purchase a car, what happens with credit cards. So I just think back to the Supreme thing. I have a question for you because Brandon answered this. And you could help me. The Dental Nacho Supreme is about $50 a year for dental students.
hmm
But what I did was I'm giving away 80 subscriptions for a full year, 20
okay,
to each class year, right now at the time of this podcast recording. And I sat around with my team and I said, guys, let's do this. This is going to be great. Let's just give them a no strings attached for a year. The only string is they have to fill out their email, put their information in, but they can unsubscribe. But pretty much no string. I said, you know what? I think conservatively, could have laid 8,000 of the 25,000 dental students follow me on text message, Instagram, Facebook, and email. So I said, I already had 8,000 dental students following me. We should easily be able to get 600 plus to enter this contest and make it fun.
yeah,
Well, it's ending in 4 days, and only
yeah.
63 people have entered. And I go, Brandon, like, why do you think I'm here? Like, here's a free year of Supreme. Ahad and Brandon have used it. What do you think stopping them from just, even if they watch one course a month on patient communication, they do better? Like, why do you think these dental students who know it's there, right? I see them looking at the story. What do you think stopping them from doing that?
I would say it's what they don't know, right? It's because they think that I'm gonna leave dental school and I'm gonna make $300,000 a year. That's the reality. I don't think they also understand how taxes work, nor how loan repayment works. And so they think that if we just go take a bunch of courses, come out of school, not realizing the price tag of these courses, and just go to New York City or Philadelphia or Atlanta, I guess, that I'll take home 350,000, pay no taxes, and be fine. And it's just like, no, you are living in a very
Who do you? I have a question, Ahad, after all this. I love the example. Who's telling them this? Like, where? Like who's? This is what I hear all the time, right? These students think they're going to graduate and be like a successful, but like, where are they getting that information? Because I'm trying to put out competing information. Like, is this in dental schools? Their instructors, the
I
internet?
think so. I mean, classmates, instructors, probably posts on Instagram. I think the reality is when you don't know, you just don't know. And then when you do know, you want to play and feign ignorance. It's easier that way, right? But, for example, there was a young girl, you know who she is. I don't want to say anything. She's come to the Nacho events, and I've spoken to her, and I just gave her a very honest answer, and I could just tell like she was kind of like appalled at my answer. But I said, I promise you that I'm probably one of the few people besides Paul and probably Brandon that would tell you the
Right.
reality of like this is how much you're gonna make, and I wouldn't expect more than that. Will there be unicorns? Absolutely. But then you got to factor in living costs, taxes. There's so much more than just that income, like that salary.
I mean,
And
well,
then
you said
people
something
also
I
fail
want
to
you to I want
realize,
you should pause it, Had, because you said something very powerful that's a cliche, but I'm gonna explain. You said what they don't know, right? But what
mhm,
you don't know can hurt you. So tomorrow I'm gonna go to the Eagles game.
mhm,
And if you park at the stadium and you
mhm,
don't know that it's 2 hours to get out of the stadium, you're sitting there in 2-hour traffic. But if you know you could take the subway to Center City in 15 minutes and have your car in 5 minutes, you've now taken this 2-hour wait down to 25 minutes because someone told you who knows. So when
mhm,
you tell this, one of the things you should put this podcast is don't ask people at your level for help getting to the next level. I never do it. I don't do it
mhm.
with entrepreneurship. Like I have entrepreneurs that are at my level. I ask them about their experience. I ask them, you can ask people at your level to share challenges and celebrations, right? Like you could talk to Brandon and say, oh, what happened with this patient that you didn't plan on? Those are great. But if you said, hey, Brandon, I want to know how to buy my third practice. He's currently hasn't bought any practice. Don't ask him, right?
Ye
Like, so my whole, I think my point to this is it's interesting. And I've heard this before where dental students say, well, my classmates told me, and I want to be like, they don't know anything either.
Yeah, but they also give you the rebuttal, "Oh, but their parents own 3 practices or 2 practices or a practice." And I'm like, "They still don't know anything," because
Right.
the reality is majority of dentists might be great clinicians, but you don't know how good or profitable their business is. I don't. And
And
so
they also are not in touch with with what's happening now. One of the greatest gifts my dad gave me was no one asked me this, Ahad. Why didn't I just go practice with my dad? He had practice in Pennington, New Jersey. There's two reasons. One, the practice wasn't totally ready for a full time associate dentist. But more importantly, my dad's like, go do this GPR thing. He goes, I did the Air Force and it was better than nothing. But just to paint the picture of the Air Force in the 1970s, Ahad, think of all these Air Force dentists who have their own operatories. No one's teaching you. If you need
yeah,
help, you have to go interrupt somebody. And sometimes you get yelled at for that. So my dad said it was great, right? And some of his senior Air Force dentists were helpful. Some of them were not helpful. But he said, go do this GPR thing. You have your whole life to learn in private practice. So
yeah,
that was really helpful of him because maybe he wanted me to come and be with him earlier, but he wanted that's what you did with that dental student was you had her best interest or his best interest in heart. And you were willing to say uncomfortable things.
yeah. And I think we need to be as my generation gets older and the new generation comes up, we need to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations
Yeah.
because the debt load is a lot. And, unfortunately, your generation, I mean, you're only about 10, 15 years, but I would say your generation, they could manage debt because it was just overall manageable. For us, we're looking at 500,000 or more in debt. And even you guys haven't seen precedent numbers. And,
No.
and sure, you've seen them via practice, but that's a whole different ballgame. Student loans, you're paying for a very expensive certificate to practice dentistry. A practice is an asset you can build on it. You
Right. It's
could
very
like
different.
learn the different ways to finagle it, but crushing student loan debt is a real conversation and not many people are willing to open their ears and listen. And so my advice to the younger generation of dental students is to connect with people such as yourself who can connect them with people like Dr. Labe, myself, D'Angelo Webster, for example, and then people of that nature, and be like, hey, listen, yeah, it is a burden, but what can you do? This is how we handled it or how we're handling it currently. And you can take our advice or completely skirt it and figure it out your own way and maybe pass that knowledge on to even us because we have different experiences, right? So I think it's that whole ABCs thing that you taught Brendan and I
Yeah.
years ago. It's always be connecting, learn from others, and just kinda get the ball rolling earlier than sooner rather than later.
I like what you're saying. There's a couple of things I want to respond with. Is one, when I do Instagram polls saying, would you pay six or $700,000 for a degree in general dentistry? And most dentists say no, at least pay attention to that, right? Because, when some dentist says, well, what else would you tell your children to do? I'm like, that's not the answer to the question that I've asked. The answer is, would you invest six or $700,000 in debt to get a degree in general dentistry, right? I'm not talking about perio. I'm not talking about oral surgery. So that's such an important thing for people to understand. The other thing is, I'd like to share this. You don't have to hate something to recommend someone not do it. I will explain.
Mhm.
I went to a restaurant recently in Philadelphia that's a new restaurant, and I thought it was good. And I don't have any desire to go back soon. This happens to me. I go, that restaurant's good, but I don't really want to go back right soon. Other times I go to a restaurant that's great and I want to go back immediately. With dentistry, I think I was sharing with you earlier, I talk a lot to people and I'm curious. So in 1999, in my GRD, bay, lots of sons and daughters of doctors. And I was
Mhm.
like, man, why did your parents tell you not to be a gastroenterologist? And overwhelmingly, they said they don't like the way their medicine's going. Even though it was good for them at the age of 50, their child was 23, and they said, go do this dentistry thing. I think a lot of that's happening to dentistry now, 20 years later, where there are most of my Instagram polls for dentistry is, would you recommend your child be a dentist? Yes, for sure. No, glad I did it, but don't think they should do it. I regret going to dental school. And most one is these dentists saying, I don't know if I think this life is good for my child who's going to be a dentist 15 years from now, not tomorrow. And that's where I just think that profession and people don't like when I call it an industry, so profession has to really have some uncomfortable conversations around student debt, availability of jobs, training, all of these things, because these are real people's lives, right? With that we're impacting and just learn about it. And I think, I know
Correct.
it's great. If you want to be an entrepreneur like me, like if you want to do that, I'll tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. And if you still think it's good, well, you're the person who should be an entrepreneur. So if you tell someone the good, bad, and ugly of dental school and the profession, and they go, I hear it and I still want to be a dentist, they're going to be the happiest dentist because
Mhm.
they're doing it for the right reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, I would tell people, like, if I were to have a kid and in 25 years, they're like, hey, dad, I want to go down to school. I wouldn't tell them no. I'd be like, hey, listen, let's sit down. This is the cost. You're going to have to sacrifice the early years of your career. You're going to have to go rural. You're going to have to, like, go learn. If you're open to that idea, then go for it. And that you really want to serve people, sure, do it. I still think it's a great career. There is not many careers I can name, Paul, that I work 4 days a week and I make as much as I do. I'm very
Yeah.
blessed. But again, I took and Brandon took and other people took a lot of risks to come out here. It's very different. But if you're only uncomfortable taking those risks, then you should do it. But if you just want to sit on your butt and you want to sit in the cities and you want to dwindle down with debt, I probably would think twice. But it's
And
about
that's
making smart choices.
good advice to the person, like a treatment plan for their career can make a decision. The other thing I wanted to say is I think there's something about dentistry, and I believe it's because we don't do required residencies. If I was an attorney and I started attorney nachos, right? And everybody's talking about law, and someone goes, Laura Brenner's one of my sponsors, and she does side gigs, and she says she's a recovering dentist, and she practiced for 10 years. And I think what she does is cool. It allows people to say, maybe part time, I want to be a broker. Maybe part time, I want to teach a course. But do you know that like she gets a lot of hate because people are like, well, why don't you love dentistry? If I did attorney nachos and someone's like, hey, I'm an attorney, but I think I'm going to go from 5 to 3 days a week, I think everyone would be like, that sounds amazing. How are you doing that? I don't think they would. There's some cult like nature that if you want to stop practicing dentistry, there's a certain segment that seem to get really, really angry. And I think, Ahad, I'm not like a psychologist. I think it comes with some like weird hidden jealousy because like I couldn't imagine if someone's like, hey, I'm going to stop practicing dentistry and I'm going to go into real estate. It's not a fit for me. I'd be like, go do you. That sounds like great. But some dentists are like, I guess you don't love the greatest profession in the world. And I just think my hope is with nachos, however long it lasts, we just start to have more, I'll try to say it. But what I say in the group, I say like, we can have friction without fighting, right? We can
Yeah.
disagree with respect. There's something, and I think it's just a unique profession that does amazing things. I mean, you can transform people's lives with dentistry,
Yeah.
lives, but you also could be told, I just want to let you know I hate you and you're ripping me off in the next hour. And I think that emotional roller coaster can be a lot for people.
It is. And I will say that if I was given the choice, Paul, to work from 4 days to 2 days, I would take it in a heartfelt. And it doesn't
Yeah,
mean that I hate dentistry. I love dentistry, man. I love aesthetic cases, working with high end labs, changing people's smiles. But it does take a toll on you mentally. So it is a great profession and I love it to death. But just because I'm practicing less doesn't mean I just don't love it anymore. It's just I value my time. I have other things outside of dentistry too. But I do love it. I do clinical cases all the time. I have a lot of fun doing them. I used to post a lot more. I haven't had time, honestly. I've been so swarmed with stuff, but I love those cases. But you also have to know, like, do you feel valued? Because not every patient also values you or your time or your effort. So it really just depends on what you want out of it. And I think if we as a profession sat down and be like, hey, there's some dentists out there that just want to practice 2, 3 days a week and do whatever the heck else they want to do. And that's great. That's awesome because they're still helping and serving a population, but they have things outside of the hobby. I mean, the profession as well.
I'm with you. I also think that, as we're doing this podcast, this has the opportunity for me to reach people through Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect. So you are a close friend and we're talking about things, but this could be described as work for me, right? All I have here, Ahad, I'm saying this is where I live in Philadelphia. This is the club
Mhm.
room. I have my laptop and my AirPods and one coffee and I'm doing work, right? For dentistry, you have to get like 6 or 7 people together to do
Mhm.
your filling, right? And I just think I say it's such an operationally complex experience. Assistant, front desk, materials, stuff, compressor, bond, this. And I do think it's like, I think it's like making paella. You ever see paella? You have so many ingredients. So the amount of ingredients you need to put into a bowl to be able to do your dentisting thing, it's complex because if on Monday your assistant doesn't show up, Ahad, you got a big problem, right?
Yeah.
If your assistant's sick on Monday, it's a domino effect of total chaos and stress. And I'm not saying that that makes the profession or dentistry bad. It just makes it a thing that to operate it, it's super complex.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Paul, so if you're open to it, I'd like to switch to more of the body
Sure.
realm of the podcast. I think if you and I talk about dentistry, we could probably talk about it for
Yeah,
about two,
yeah.
3 hours
Sure.
easily. Not even a question. But my opening question to you is, you do all of these things, but how do you stay mentally and spiritually engaged? Like, how do you feel that you're still yourself after doing all of these things? Like, what's your way to decompress and take care of yourself?
I love this question. So one thing I want to share is it's always something. It's like a WIP is a sports station in Philly. It's always a work in progress. So if I use that, it's a work in progress. So dentists will go and do multiple procedures, and some will go perfect as possible. Some will go very good, and some will go okay. I think it's the same thing with trying to be physically, mentally, spiritually healthy. So one is I'm 48 years old, and I'm proud of how physically fit I am when it comes to activity. Right, it's a very different physical fitness than when I was in dental school. In dental school and residency, I was at a level of physical fitness that was more like not a bodybuilder level, but like intense exercise, could run half marathons, could lift weights. So I commit to doing activity, which is usually 10 to 15,000 steps a day. I commit to being in some sort of strength training 2 to 3 times a week. So that's the physical part of it, activity. I've also learned this is one of the downsides, not downsides, problems of my personality. I would rather have no M's or the whole bag. And that is not a healthy way to live your life. And I was the same way about exercise. So yesterday, before I spoke, I went to the gym for 18 minutes. So I am willing to do the gym for 18 and 22 minutes because Dr. Jason Tenori, amazing friend, said something's better than nothing. And it
Hmm.
flipped the switch in me because I had a problem with if I can't put in 90 minutes, I'll do nothing. So that is that there. When it comes to mental and spiritual, I think there's seasons of your life where you're keeping up as much as possible with your children. And it's an active time for 7 and 11-year-olds from basketballs to plays to things like that. When they're older, maybe they won't want to spend time with me and I can return to some of my things I did, like reading more. I've not read as many physical books. That was a big part of kind of my mental shut off. Things I can work on is to scroll less on my phone. The main problem with the phone to me, Ahad, is I can pick up my phone and be working on nachos and helping a dentist, but then I can hit one button and start reading Yahoo articles or start watching a bunch of short form videos on Instagram. And I'm immediately eating like the potato chips, and potato chips in small doses aren't bad, but social media potato chips in large doses are a problem. So I would like to put some more boundaries on that. I think what in the olden days, everything wasn't just available on this thing, right? Everything's
Hmm.
available on this. The world's available, your friends available. So my wife and daughter, I support them in their my wife's background. She's reconnected with Judaism and done things with my daughter for that. I'm not a particularly religious person myself, but support them in doing that. So that's maybe I don't have anything specifically spiritual going on. So that would be kind of my physical fitness, tempting to put boundaries on some of my scrolling. I'm glad you asked me because now I want to read a physical book. Have you heard of the 75 hard thing?
Yeah, I think I saw Roshan do it or
Yes.
something. I was scrolling one day. I was like, "What's this?"
Here's my
So I
thing
looked it
is
up.
15 years ago, I probably would do it. Oh, you knew me. And listen, I've just learned that sometimes these extreme things are so hard to keep up with, right? But
Yeah.
the 75 hard, what I like about it is it has to do with you have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book a day. So I might just do that part of it and not the
Hmm.
other parts. I think there's some great things like you can do a big reset with that. I'm not judging it. I think Jason Tenori's done it, who's one of my idols and mentors. I've just gotten to this point for like I've tried to be less extreme, right? With it's like I'm not going to exercise 5 hours a day and then not the next day. I'm not going to try to read an entire book one week and never read again. So my kind of message to your listeners is I'm trying to be in this balance world of something is better than nothing when it comes to all of this mind, body, spiritual. Because I've had challenges being too extreme, and
Yeah, I'm the
in my
same
life,
way.
I
Like Paul, it's taken me a while to balance things out. Like, there was a part of me that, I was like, man, I can't work out for an hour a day on the weekends or I'm in the weekdays because I travel 40 minutes to work. I'm like, this sucks. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna get up at 4:45. And I've been doing this 4:45 for a while, like since dental school. And I get up, get ready, just go to the gym for like 30 minutes, 28 minutes, 36 minutes. It's so little. That's
yeah,
all I do. And I come home, I might stretch. I had a pretty good day. I mean, because I got
yeah,
my workout in early in the morning, took care of the body, I'm done. And that's the biggest thing is like small, like in our language, there's a saying that my parents used to tell me. It's basically little drops make a big river.
yeah, yeah,
And it's these little things that you do every single day, even if it sucks or if it's hard, it's what compounds. It's the same thing like the stock market. You build slowly and it'll happen. And I think what's happened with us in particular, there's a book, it's not coming to my mind. It's something about social media. I think it's a lost generation or something. There's a name for it. I'll tell you when I remember, but very good book on social media. And I think we've just gotten so used to instantly getting things like instant money
yeah,
transfer, instant stocks, instant like making money off of crypto that we forget that, hey, things take time. Becoming a good dentist, becoming a good father or mother, becoming a great entrepreneur, businessman or woman, it takes time. And I think if we reset our frame to understanding that patience, and this is from Gary Vee, which I picked up 10
yeah,
years ago when I really followed him. And I know you're a big fan of him too. Patience is key. He used to say, forget everything until you're 29. Forget everything until
yeah,
29. And I always used to say that until I was 30. I'm like, damn, he was right. Like I look back like 10 years ago at 21, I was just leaving college. I'd graduated at 21. Where I am today, I would have said, ha, you're lying. I would not be here. But look at me now. It's like 10 years later, it happened.
yeah.
So it's
One thing you
patience.
said was important there too is I'm a big fan of Gary Vee and not but everything in his treatment plan I don't accept. I'm a big fan of my colleagues who run Facebook groups and everything in their treatment plan recommendations I don't agree with. So I think what's important in people there's a big all or none thing, right? And I'll say, I learned this from Gary Vee and someone shouts back, but he does this that I don't like, right?
Yeah.
And I go, I understand, but you can take the good from it. When you give a patient a treatment plan with 6 things on it, they don't have to accept all 6 things to make their lives better. Sometimes
Yeah.
they accept 4 things. I think we're very dramatic. And I understand, if I can give this message, I hope, people, I'll share this podcast. It's like I wrote a blog and I'll send it to you why I had to stop following dads with perfect abs. Because I said, Ahad, that these dads on Instagram with perfect abs were always showing off their perfect abs. And they were always so proud of these abs. And I don't have these abs, Ahad. And it was making me so angry to see them. And then I thought to myself, I could just stop following them. Who am I to tell them to stop posting about their perfect abs? And the whole story's made up, but it's a example of people have said to me, Paul, I don't like all the negativity on dental nachos. And then the next message is, Paul, I don't like all the positivity on dental nachos. And then the next message is, Paul, I don't like that you tell people to go rural. And then the next message is, Paul, I like that you tell people to go rural. And I just say, consume it however it fits in your life. And what's kind of
Absolutely.
funny, as the person behind the scenes of this, the content is actually driven more by the community sharing, right? I'm the number one poster and the number one sharer. But, this is a good example. People say, Paul, I don't like that you love DSOs. And some next person's like, Paul, I don't like that you hate DSOs. I go, well, neither of those things are true. I work with DSOs daily with Dentist Job Connect, and I see challenges with DSOs and I see reasons for celebrations with DSOs. So I just think that if your listeners are paying attention to this, you don't need an all or none mentality to get something out of a platform. And also, you could take a break. Honestly, I've taken a break from working out intensely. I've taken a break from this content because it's usually more about you than the content. Because if you
Yeah,
pick this thing up, Ahad, Gary Vee talks about this. You pick this thing up, it's your phone. You tap a button voluntarily to go on Facebook. Then you tap a button voluntarily to go on Dental Nachos. Then you tap a button voluntarily to read what's on Dental Nachos. If
correct.
that in any way upsets you, don't tap the button. Don't tell Dental Nachos to stop sharing.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, some people also fail to realize what it means to take a break. Like Paul, I don't know if you know. I mean, I think you've realized because I feel like you tag me on things and I don't share it and I don't mean to. I just don't use social media. Like,
Yeah, that's okay.
I go on 6 to 8 weeks of just not using it. And I have a podcast and everything. And I'm like, all right, I'll record a couple podcasts and I'll post it when I feel like I've gotten my share of just being in the moment, being present. And I think that for me is like, I do that cyclically. Like I'll do, I think out of the year, I will, my hope is to use social media 24 out of the 56 weeks. Why that number? Because 50% of the time I want to be present in my life, taking care of the problems and the celebrations that need to have my eyes and attention. And then the other 24 weeks, I'll go celebrate everyone else and just see what they're up to and try to connect and do that. Because for me, that means peace. And that's my thing. Not everybody likes that. And that's okay. But I picked and choose what I like and what doesn't work for me. And I think if people had more of, that mentality, they would understand that, it's your life, it's your choice, right? And you can
Yeah.
do what you please.
I am so with you. I mean, no one would
Yeah.
tell someone whose back was injured to work out nonstop. But if their back's injured and they're resting, you might say, well, now's the time to try some stretching in the gym. And you can just treat it the same way. I always say you control your scroll. So if you don't like what's on your scroll, you put it there. I mean, I'm not smart enough to understand the brilliance and at times potentially the evilness of social media than
Yeah.
what they're putting in front of us, right? But I do know we control it. So if you watch a lot of kittens dunking basketballs, they're going to share. I mean, did you ever see? did, this happened to me with my team member. I always joke that I don't like hiking and she likes hiking, right? And I one time joked it was like for people who don't love hiking and they just like walk up a mountain and then there's like a beer stand. And I go, that's so I sent that to her. Well, for like the next 3 weeks, they were like dumping hiking in my feed. And it took me a while to get the hiking out of there. And it wasn't such a serious thing that I had like engaged with. But obviously, these social media platforms exist to advertise to you, and you just have to
Mhm.
know that, right? You literally have to. You don't have to buy it. It's funny. People go, "I don't like that Dental Nachos sells stuff." I go, "Okay, cool. You can solve that. Don't buy anything."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, why you like someone else is buying loops and getting a deal, and then you don't want loops? It seems like the most honestly, I have to share this, Ahad, before we finish up. If you, I can do it like 5 or 7 minutes. I believe that like buying things from dental Facebook groups as a dentist, right? Purchasing things from dental Facebook groups as a dentist is probably one of the most fair way to purchase things, right?
Mhm.
Because there's no cost to get into it, right? There's no cost to get into it as long as the group founders are transparent, like I am, saying that this is a sponsored post, you have the ability, Ahad, to let me just try to pick out something like the AI x-ray forms, AI x-ray companies, right? So currently two are sponsors. The third one's not a sponsor. I know 5 years from now, we're going to have 15, but there are three major platforms that allow you to analyze your x-rays. Two are sponsors of the group, clearly marked. When someone says, are you using A or B? The group then responds with good and bad things about it, like
Mhm.
community members. So not only is the advertisement there and the deal there, right underneath it is interaction. Unlike an Amazon review where it says, I love this book, I hated this book was okay. You can't type back, well, what did you not like about the book? But on Facebook groups for dentistry, you can have living, breathing conversations with people's experiences about these AI platforms. So I know I'm a founder of this, but to me, it is one of the most ethical ways to buy something for your dental practice.
Uh,
No barrier to learning about it, clearly marked sponsors, and community members who can interact at that time. And with all of that, Ahad, make the best decision for you. You don't want AI for your x-rays? Just don't buy it. Don't yell about it.
exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I think when people have the opportunity to complain, they will complain because it's the easiest thing to do. Yeah.
So,
So, Paul, I know that we're on a slight time constraint, but
Sure.
I have 3 super important questions for you,
Sure, I
and I'd
can do them.
love if we could answer all 3. The
Yeah.
first question is, and this is more with the roots portion because now we're just wrapping up, is what was it like growing up as a young boy in New Jersey? And is there anything that you would change about growing up in New Jersey or just anything in general?
So I feel very lucky to be in that environment. My one friend who has started a chocolate company in Madagascar, a very amazing guy. Maybe you could interview him sometime. The accident of your birth or where you're born determines a lot in life. And I did nothing to have awesome parents. So some of the things that were great about New Jersey, vibrant, close to New York, close to New York, Philadelphia, and DC, traditional suburban lifestyle, which I enjoyed with sports. I will say some of the benefits were my friends, pushed me to do better, whether it was sports or academics. So I think that that was fortunate for me. Some of the things that I would like to focus on different for my children, and already did for my own daughter. So my daughter tested into a very special school in Philadelphia where she could start in sixth grade. And it's pretty much like going to college as a high school student. And it's one of the best schools in the state and country. And we said no thanks. And I don't
Hmm.
know if my parents would have said no thanks because back in the days of the 90s, of course, academics are supreme. But I do think there was a lot of unnecessary pressure that was not productive put on grades and performance for academics. And I did not want my daughter to go to college in sixth grade. I want her to become more well rounded. So that would be something that I would potentially change or just look back on and say there was a lot of contest like grade stuff that caused a lot of internal pressure for me as a student that I don't
Hmm.
think was all the way healthy. I think it's important, but they didn't talk about emotional intelligence, how you interact with people. It's just like, did you get a good grade on this algebra 2 test, right? And I just think the metrics for which they define success need to be changed. So I don't know, did that
Yeah.
answer your question?
It does, and I think, yeah,
Okay.
we could talk about grades, and this is probably another rabbit hole we could jump down, but you're right. To be well-rounded in today's society is more important than just a couple of letter grades, and I feel
Yeah,
that, we go back to it, dental schools could also learn from that, and higher education could learn from that because that's not the whole picture, right?
for sure.
So, it is what it is, but hopefully, that is the best decision you make for your daughter, and I hope
Mm.
that she does become that well-rounded person that you inspire or aspire her to become. So, my other 2 questions for you is, what is your legacy, Paul, and why?
I think the biggest part of it would be I joke with Todd Fleischman, who was one of my original people from Nachos, who he asked me out to go get beers. So he saw Nachos in like 2018 ish and said, "Let me meet you." So I give him a lot of credit. And then I inspired him to start speaking and meet other people. And I always say, Todd, I introduce you to people who you like better than me. Right. So I think part of my legacy would be to be remembered as someone who's created true friendships for people they would have never met without me. I like the 6 degrees of Nacho Kevin Bacon. That's truly it, because I think that we're always going to be people. We're not always going to be dentists. I think that's a dangerous part of dentistry, that the identity, it's a very big, your identity is tied to being a dentist. So I would like to help dentists realize that their non dentist self is super important. Their
Yes.
career might be over one day. They could get injured, and could they meet people who make their lives better? So someone who is legacy is connecting a profession that was in caves, as my friend Dr. Eric Cornelius said, that tended to be more like the Black Swan Hunger Games ballerina world, and said, hey, maybe if we reach out to each other, high five each other, support each other. One of my last lines of a video, Ahad, is no one really likes going to the dentist, so we may as well like each other. That's what I like to.
I love it, and I think you've done a great job of that legacy because 'cause I've met so many people and mentors through you, Todd included, and I'm so grateful for that. What you do, I will always remember it long past by the time I hit retirement. I'm like, I remember Paul. He was a good guy. I
Yeah.
mean, he connected me and made me who I am today. And then my last and final question before you head out is, who is Paul in one word?
I mean, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, one of my favorite books, talks about four different types of people: mavens, salespeople, and connectors. So I really think, and I like these one word challenges. The book To Sell is Human, one of my other favorite books by Daniel Pink, talks about, can you create a one word pitch for what you do, right? And that one word pitch could be to convince your child to go to a game with you. It could be to convince a patient to do a treatment plan. It could be follow your company. So I really think connector would be it. Connector would be it. I really derive a huge sense of joy in meeting somebody new and say, I know someone who needs to know you. So I really think connector would be there. be that word.
That suits you very aptly. I just want to say, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. If there's anything else you want to say to the audience, that'll be lovely. But if not, it's not a big deal. But, thank you again
Well,
for your time.
I'll say to you and your listeners, I know how much work goes into this. Be proud of yourself for doing it. They're lucky that you take this time to interview people so they can share their knowledge, help them, like I say, cry less and smile more.
Yeah, I love it. And to my audience, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Mind, Body, and Roots. Until next time, be well.